I'm glad to be back. I heard you had some fun last week with my friend Reverend Brian. I heard he was a kick. I'm glad about that. He always cracks me up, so I'm so glad. But today we are completing our month on the courage to be kind with my talk, Kindness on a Global Scale. And so this month we've been talking about how it takes courage to step up and create a circle of kindness. Now I know it sounds a little hokey, it's a little cheesy, and a little whatever, but but the truth is that this is the important work that needs to be done in the world right now. That there is this movement that's saying that it's better to be right than be kind. It's better to be loud with what you believe instead of listen to somebody else. There's this culture that's going around, and it seems to be spiraling like a hurricane out there that is pushing this agenda of we got to be strong and tough and get what you can get and whatever, right? And so the idea of the fact that we are called to stand in the truth of what we know, and that's kindness. Kindness is one of the most important things. And the way that we're talking about it is through this really adorable little book by the Dalai Lama called A Compassionate Life. There's a couple left in the bookstore. But I love this because he says it so clearly. He cuts through the BS. I'm going to say it. He cuts through the BS. And reminds us of what's important. And it calls us to think about who we want to be in the world and what we want to stand for. We don't want to stand for give me all I can get so you don't have any. We want to stand for realizing that there is more than enough for everyone, including kindness and respect. So that's where the idea of taking kindness to the global scale, kindness on a global scale is my talk today. And when I was through the week, I tried to get out of this, sometimes there's stuff that comes to me, impressions, as I'm doing my meditations and my readings and contemplating this through the week. There's this thing that's been coming to me all week because I've been trying to think about why I care about kindness so much. Kindness is a value for me. It's one of the top probably 3 or 4 values in my life. And it always has been. And it's my button. Like, let me tell you, if I see someone not being kind to somebody else, it's as if my button's getting pushed. So it's that thing that'll send me over the edge. To not be kind is when someone's not being kind, which is hilarious to me. But it's my own word. But I was thinking about it this week, and I kept hearing this voice in my head. And it wasn't, my mom saying you should be kind or teaching it when I was little, but it was my brothers. I grew up with 2 amazing brothers who are quite a bit older than I am. And all I could hear in my head was them saying to me, and this is what the real talk is about. Hold on. Just don't be a jerk. Right? Like that's what I heard in my head. Don't be a jerk, Kathy. Don't be a jerk. That's who I was before when I was young, was Kathy. Okay, so nobody calls me Kathy, I'm Catherine now. But when I was little, my brothers used to say, don't be a jerk, Kathy, just don't be a jerk. And I realized that that's what I'm talking about today, is that in order for us to be able to bring kindness on a global scale is that we need to not be jerks. We need to be present in our life that's positive. We need to bring forward that which we want to experience. If we want to be respected, we have to respect. If we want to have people support us, we need to be supportive. If we want to have people be generous with us, we need to be generous. That's how it is. We need to not be jerks. And I hope that that's not a word that's going to offend too many people in this room. But that's what it means, is that for us to bring kindness to this global scale, we need to start in our own selves. We need to start with those places that we address those buttons, those places of woundedness that cause us to react in an unkind way. I had this for really much later in the talk, but so the other idea of this, so I have no idea where I'm going after this. So you're in for a ride. But this is the deal, is that I kept thinking about trees, right? The idea of a tree can only go as broad as its roots go deep. Right? We can only go as broad out into the world as we go within ourselves. Those tree roots have to go down and out to be a stable support for whatever happens above ground. And that's us doing our own personal work in our lives. That's us realizing the places where we are creating chaos for ourselves and others, where we are creating an idea of separation for ourselves and others, in order to allow for us to be what we want to be in life. This beautiful picture, this beautiful, gorgeous, lovely tree that gives home to many animals and birds and gives shade to those who wander by and for rest and respite, you know, the whole idea of who you want to be in the world. That picture, do you get that? Right? And so the thing that you don't see is how deeply rooted that tree is into the truth of life. It has to go really far deep to find the nutrients and support to sustain it in its glorious expression. You are the same thing. You are called to go as deep into yourself, into that presence of God that's within you, into that understanding that something else is happening here than what you see happening out in the world. And you are part of it. And so as deeply as we can go into that knowing, as deeply as we can develop that relationship with the divine, and let me tell you, that's a give and take relationship. It's not one of those that we just say, God, please help me. I'm the helpless one here. Please show up, right? But when we commune with the presence that has brought forth everything that is, when we commune with the truth of who we are, that's the divine wisdom speaking to us, through us, and as us out into our lives. And so then we can go broad. Then we can create what it is that we're wanting. Because that desire of what you're wanting to have in your life is not just for you. The idea of creating a life where you are immersed and fulfilled and fully expressing who you are, it's not just for you. It's for the world around you. You are called to be that light. Everything we sing today, everything that's happening in this service today is geared toward reminding us that we are a light in this world. And we have come to shine. And I don't care if that's cheesy. I don't care if it's corny. Because you know what? We need a little bit of cheesy and corny right now. Am I quoting a movie? Yeah, the holiday. That's from the holiday. That's from the holiday. That just came straight through me. Sorry about that. Okay, great. Well, but it's true. Whoever wrote that movie was really wise, and that was really true, right? But that's true, that we really do need to stand up for some of these ideas that are not ideals that are not being manifest out in the experience of the majority of the culture today. But because we know that it's important to us, we are the ones to bring it forward. And in order for us to bring it forward, we have to do our own work. We have to smooth out those rough edges. I used to have a friend who would laugh at me when I first started in religious science because 20 years ago when I started at church, I would come home and then I would be all inspired and really excited and doing all my work and everything was great. Then we'd go out and I'd get cranky on the road and California traffic is something to get used to. It took me a few years there to get used to that. And whatever, and I would react in maybe not such a great way. And he would look at me and he would say, "So is that what they're teaching you there at that church of yours?" I hate it when they were right. And he was right? And I hadn't done my work to smooth my edges out in order to be able to be a presence in the world. I was adding to it. So we are either going to heal it or we're going to make it worse. We're going to help heal this situation in the world right now, or we're going to make it worse. And we have a choice as to what we want to do with that. But the way that we do it is by looking at ourselves. Who knows where I am? Okay, so in the book, the Dalai Lama says that I believe that every level of society, familial, national, and international, the key to a happier and more successful world is the growth of compassion. He goes on to say that I believe that the cultivation of individual happiness can contribute in a profound and effective way to the overall improvement of the entire human community. So see, it's not just me, the Dalai Lama thinks that too. He said that there's one universal religion, and that's compassion. And if we are not living with that idea of cultivating a compassionate heart, if we are not living with the idea of sharing that with the world, we're missing the idea of religion across the board. It's about bringing more light forward. I went back a few years ago. I love Facebook memories, because now I've been on it long enough that they're bringing up some really, not only cute pictures of my kid when she was little, but some of the things that have gone around, some of those ideas. A couple of years ago, and it was so divine that I looked at it this morning, because a couple of years ago, I shared a list of the distilled teachings of Jesus. That someone had put this list together of what he taught and all the different ideas of that. And it was just distilled into this list of about 20 things. Let me tell you, not one of them was, get more than your neighbor. Not one of them was, get back at the person who harmed you. Not one of them was, revenge feels really good, right? That wasn't in that list. There wasn't anything about gaining power or overcoming anybody else. It was the exact opposite, right? Jesus taught us to forgive. He taught us to accept. He taught us to reach out to those who are less fortunate than we are and actively support healing other people. He encouraged us and said that this and more shall you do. You can do everything that I can do and more, and you will do it. And so the question is, are we doing that? Are we living up to that amazing vision of who we can be and how we can be together that Jesus laid out? We're not. And part of it is that we are afraid to deal with our own stuff. That there has been stuff that has come through our lives and through our experiences that we can't handle because we're afraid that if we look at it or we deal with it or we sit with it, it's going to be so much pain it's going to swallow us whole. Have you ever been in a moment like that? I have. But what I think that we're forgetting is that the power that's alive within us is greater than we think we are. That divine presence that's at the center of your being, that is bringing forth everything for you, as you, with you, around you, is also the wisdom that's going to guide you through the challenge. It's the wisdom and the love that's going to put its arm around you and gently nudge you forward. And if you are not going to go, then it's going to shove you a little bit. And then if you're really not going to go, it's going to give you a swift kick in the butt. And that's the thing that happens. We have to listen for the wisdom of God because it starts as a whisper. And then it talks to us through our lives. And then when we really ignore it, it picks us up by the scruff of the neck and puts us where we need to be. And that can feel a little bit disoriented. But when you have one of those experiences, that's for us to learn, because when you get dropped into that new situation and the world stops spinning and you find yourself in this new situation, more often than not, I hear that, oh my God, this was the best thing that ever could have happened to me. So sometimes we think that in the midst of the relationship dissolving or the job going away or the negative, the hard diagnosis, whatever it is that shakes your world, so often it's shaking you awake to the path that you have been called to walk. And that is always a little bit more of acceptance of yourself and an acceptance and a deepening in your relationship to God and life. So we start creating kindness and peace on a global scale by doing our own personal work. Lao Tzu said, if there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. And if there is to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities. If there is to be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors. And if there is to be peace between neighbors, there must be peace in the home. And for there to be peace in the home, there must be peace in the heart. And so we are called to find peace in our own hearts. It always comes back to the fact, can you embrace and accept the individual gift to the world that you are? Can you be that loving, supportive, safe space in your own mind for yourself? Because the reason why we judge other people so harshly is because we judge ourselves 10 times worse. If we can't find that place of peace with ourselves and peace in our own being, we can't really be in love with life. We can't really be in love with anything outside of ourselves, and we cannot find God. Because let me tell you, you are the gift of God to the world. And if you can't find peace and acceptance of yourself, there's no way around that. So we have to start within. We have to start in our own minds and our own hearts and healing and cleaning up the stuff that has come back to us. And so one of the things that I was really inspired by, I shared a couple weeks ago that I did Reverend Sherry's intensive for the Rising Strong work, the Brene Brown work. I was bowled over by that. That was so powerful. And one of the things that they encourage is to become curious. Like the way to shift this is for us to start to be curious. If we're curious about the other person, then that shifts the dynamic, right? When we're in a judgy place, right? Of something that's other, that feels strange, that's different. If we can start to develop some curiosity, then we can approach it differently, not from the place of difference, but a place of connection. The Dalai Lama talks through this whole book about how all of us are, humanity has the same goal, which is to find happiness, which is to find a place of peace and happiness in this world, right? And so some people go about it in a way that I wouldn't necessarily do that, maybe like, trying to get rid of certain people or whatever their motives are, or whatever their actions are, everyone has choice. But when we can understand that the core motivation for just about everything in this world is that someone wants to find happiness, and they may be a little bit misguided as to how to do that. It's a different way of relating, right? That you can see things differently. As we develop this curiosity about ourselves, why am I so reactive when somebody cuts me off on the highway? Why am I so reactive when the person at the grocery counter is trying to pay in pennies? And I'm just trying to get one thing and get out of there quick, right? Like what? So that changes. If I go in with a little bit of a curiosity, then it changes my way of relating, and it changes my way of judging. Because sometimes things look really tough, and sometimes it looks and feels like things are going off the rails. But I was reminded about every really good story. Whether we're talking about literature, classical literature, modern stories, movies, whatever we can talk about, that there's always a moment where it looks like it's going to go horribly wrong. There's always a moment that there's no possible way that anything could work out the way we want it to. There's a moment where it looks like it's just, why are we even watching the rest of the movie, right? But then something shifts and something turns. And that's not just fanciful imagination. That's the way it works. The light always overcomes the darkness. Love always wins over hate. Connection always wins over separation. It always happens. Now, I'm not saying that bad stuff doesn't happen in between. I'm not saying that there's a real possibility of pain in the midst of life, because we were not guaranteed a pain-free life. But we were guaranteed a full, fulfilling, satisfying life. And so the strength that's within each of us can overcome any of that. And we are the ones who are going to help that storyline shift in this world, or we're not. And that's where the courage comes in, that we are called to step up in our courage, in our circles, and be a presence of peace. To be a force for good where we stand. To be bravely courageous enough to look at our own issues and work our own issues enough to be able to contribute to the light rather than stealing it from other places. We are called to know who we are and to be who we are, and that is how we can participate in this story. Now, I've been going on I have another Ernest Holmes quote for us. I know it's a long one, but I go in seasons. I was thinking of this because I've shared this a couple of times over the past little while, but this one keeps coming to me in this season of life, of what's happening these days out in the world. This is from Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science. He says this, that we are called to stay with the one and never deviate from it. Never leave it for a moment. You do not get to lose your faith over the experience of your life. Nothing else can equal this attitude. To desert the truth in the hour of need is to prove that we don't know the truth. When things look the worst, that's the supreme moment to demonstrate to ourselves that there are no obstructions to the operation of truth. When things look the worst, this is the best time to work, the most satisfying time. The person who can throw himself with a complete abandon into the limitless sea of receptivity, having cut loose from all apparent moorings, is the one who will always receive the greatest reward. We are the ones. Gandhi said, "Be the change you want to see." And so in concrete terms, it means that we are each called to embody and express that which we are longing for out in the world. And again, the Dalai Lama talks so clearly in this book that all of those things that are our true enemies. He talks about what our true enemies are. And the Dalai Lama says that our true enemies are hatred, anger, attachment, and jealousy. And these are all delusions of our minds. We can't see through them because we are so attached to the experience of them. When anger and jealousy, when they rise, those things are like tigers in us, right? That they just show up and they rise within us. That's because your button's been pushed. Now, whoever's pushing your button is just pushing it. They didn't install it. You're the one that installed it. Or you let it be installed. And so we need a handy person to help us get it out and to uninstall those buttons. And so that's the wisdom of the one that works through you. That's working with one of our practitioners. That's taking one of our classes and looking at the status of your life and where you want to put some attention and some growth. We're the ones to do the work to let that go. I heard another word in my head when I said that, and I didn't say it out loud, so that's a good thing. So, this is how I see it though. When we're faced with a challenge, when something's happening, whether it's on a grand scale out in the world or whether it's a personal experience, people are faced with challenges and they come to me constantly and are trying to find some wisdom or some understanding or some way of putting it in perspective. And this is what I teach often, is that whenever something's happening, some aspect of the divine is trying to be born in it. So when we have a challenge in a relationship, okay, I love to use the example of fighting with my mother, which is really ironic because my mom's been watching the podcast and she calls and she says, we don't fight that much. And then, why are you always talking about us fighting? I was like, well, it's an easy example, Ma, that's all, don't worry about it. So if you're having a fight with your partner or your parent or a coworker or something's trying to be born in that, a new way of looking, a new understanding of harmony, a new experience of patience or of compassion is being called through for us to embody. And we can find out whatever it is in each and every experience of our life. What's trying to come through a financial challenge? Well, the understanding that you are completely sourced and supported no matter what it looks like, that's trying to be born in this situation. And we have a choice to either embrace it and understand it and move in that direction of what's trying to come forward, because in everything God is trying to reveal more of itself. And so in those challenges, we are called to see differently. We are called to relate to life differently. And we've got a choice whether we're going to stand up to do it or we're not. And that changes things. That changes. When you say, okay, God, again, curiosity, okay, God, show me. What is this here for me for? When you can do that, you can relate to your life differently. Then you rise in your own power, you rise in your own creativity, and then your life changes. Your light, you start to call forth all of those things that you can now see. You can now see harmony happening around you. You can see how forgiveness and acceptance shifts relationships and shifts the way that we are in the world. I was so, like I said, we're either going to feed it, or we're going to either feed the separation, or we're going to heal it. And so the other story that kept coming to me this week, and I was like, I don't know if that really fits. And God kept saying, do it. Tell the story. I'm like, okay, so here's my story for this week. I was so moved. Does anybody watch that show, Mrs. Maisel? Oh my God, I love that show. I can't wait for it to come back. I love that show. But one of the actresses won an Emmy for Best Supporting Actress. Her name's Alex Borstein, and I've loved her for years. She's a comedian. She's hilarious. She's amazing in the show. She deserved the Emmy. I was really happy. But during the Emmy, she told a story about her grandmother, who was a Holocaust survivor. And so her grandmother was literally in line to be shot in a pit. And she said to the guard, "What happens if I step out of line and run?" And he said to her, he said, "I don't have the heart to shoot you, but somebody will." And she stepped out of line, and nobody shot her. And Alex Borstein says, "That's why my mom's here, that's why I'm here, and that's why my children are here." And so she used it as a cry. She said, "Okay, ladies," she was talking about women and acting, step out of line is what she's encouraging everybody. You know what, when you feel like you're in that moment, you got to step out of line, right? Step out of the line. And what that's saying to me about what we're talking about now is that we cannot allow ourselves to be drones and hypnotized by the state of the world to just say, well, this is how it is now. People aren't kind. This is how it is. That people are this is how we are going to relate to each other. I want us to step out of line of that. I want us to step out and be a light for harmony and peace and compassion and kindness in this world. Because I know that we are the ones. We are the ones who are called to do this. We are the ones who are called to hold the light for a new way to reveal itself. We know what's being born in this crazy, time, which is, life is getting crazier and crazier to me, it seems, And maybe it's just because we have 24/7 news coverage, and maybe it's because we have all of this that's whatever shouting is shouting really loudly. And I know that that's not really the truth, but we have to address it. And in order to address it, we need to step out of line and stand up for what we know is important and what we know is healing and transformative, and that's compassion and kindness. So I'm going to invite you to join me this week in standing up to be the light of kindness in your life, to be kind to yourself, to embrace with compassion the powerful presence and the loving presence that you are, and allow that light to shine forth into the world from there, because in that all things are healed.